Hey family, welcome back to the Relationship Channel where we keep it real and keep it loving. If you enjoy these cozy story moments, and my adorable cat clearly does, hit subscribe and join us for more heart, healing, and good vibes every week. The cruelest thing Beatrice ever did to me wasn't even the cheating. It was the way she turned it into a show. She sent me the hotel address once, Miami, South Beach, like she was sending a DoorDash order. Then she texted, "You on kid duty. Don't embarrass me. I'll be back when I feel like it." I stayed at the screen until my eyes hurt. No apology. No shame. Just control. Here's how it happened. How a marriage that once felt like home turned into a place where I slept in my car and still got blamed for being tired. I'm Tom. Charlotte, North Carolina. Black man. Mid-30s. Regular job. Regular problems. Except the kind that hollow you out from the inside. Before anybody crowns me a saint, let me say it. I messed up first, years back. I cheated. I hated myself for it. I got caught. I didn't blame Beatrice, didn't blame stress, didn't blame men being men. I owned it. Went to therapy, read books I used to clown dudes for reading, asked uncomfortable questions about why I needed attention like oxygen. I promised I'd never make her feel disposable again. I meant it. Beatrice and I met in Raleigh when I was still the kind of guy who thought confidence meant volume. She laughed at me the first night, full belly laugh, because I tried to impress her by ordering something spicy and started sweating like a witness on the stand. She reached across the table, wiped my forehead with a napkin, and said, "Tom, you're not tough. You're just hungry." It was romantic in the way real romance is, not candles and violins, but somebody seeing you clearly and still choosing to stay at the table. I fell hard. The problem was, I kept needing to be chosen by everyone. Back then, I was charming but restless. If Beatrice was the sun, I was a man who still looked for streetlights. I justified my cheating with nonsense, work stress, feeling invisible, a little resentment I couldn't admit. When she found out, she didn't scream like a movie. She got quiet. That quiet was worse. She asked me one question. Why couldn't you just be honest with me? I didn't have a clean answer. I had excuses. She took the ring off and placed it on the counter like it weighed 100 pounds. That moment still follows me. I did the work after that. The slow work. The kind that doesn't make you feel heroic. Therapy in Charlotte on Tuesday evenings. Sitting in a waiting room with magazines from 2014 and pretending the receptionist couldn't see my shame. I learned new words, accountability, repair, boundaries, and hated how much they applied to me. I wrote Beatrice letters I never sent. I stopped drinking like it was a personality. I called my father and admitted I didn't know how to be faithful because I didn't know how to be steady. He didn't comfort me. He said, "So learn." Beatrice didn't come back because I begged. She came back because time passed and the effort stayed. She watched me change the way you watch a pot on low heat, still suspicious it won't boil, but noticing it's warming. When she finally agreed to dinner again, I showed up early and nervous, like it was a first date. She wore this simple yellow dress and smelled like she'd walked out of a clean laundry room in heaven. I tried a line I'd practiced. She cut me off and said, "Tom, don't talk like a motivational speaker. Just be real." So I was. We rebuilt. There were good years. Real laughter. We'd dance in the kitchen while the rice cooked. Beatrice loved old-school R&B, and she'd make me slow dance with her even if I was holding a spatula. One night I spun her too hard and she almost took out a chair. We both laughed until we cried. And she said, "If I die in this kitchen, tell them it was love." I said, "I'm telling them it was your lack of balance." She threw a dish towel at my face and kissed me like she was sealing a deal. That's the Beatrice I married. Our kids came along and the house got louder. The kind of chaos that makes your shoulders ache but your heart full. I was the corny dad who did voices for bedtime stories. Beatrice would roll her eyes like she hated it, but she'd smile into her phone so I wouldn't see. Sometimes she'd grab my hand under the table at family dinners, little squeezes that said, "We're a team." I used to think those squeezes were permanent, that if you worked hard enough, love became a contract nobody could break. I didn't understand love can be real and still turn mean. The shift was subtle at first. Beatrice got colder, like she had a private weather system I couldn't predict. She'd criticize small things, how I folded towels, how I laughed too loud, how I talked too friendly to cashiers. I thought she was stressed. I tried to help. I did more around the house. I brought her favorite peach candy from the gas station like a peace offering. She'd take it without looking up. "Thanks," she'd say, like she was accepting a receipt. I told myself, it's just a season. Everything cycles. I didn't realize this wasn't a season. It was a decision. Then came the phone. Face down. Always. Password changed. If I walked into a room, she'd tilt the screen away like she was shielding it from sunlight. She started going on girls' trips to Atlanta, but the stories never matched. One time she claimed her friend Shonda was there, but Shonda posted from home, in pajamas, watching a cooking show. I asked Beatrice about it lightly, trying not to sound like a detective. She stared at me for a long moment and said, "You're not doing this. Not after what you did." It was like she pulled my old sin out of her purse and slapped me with it. I deserve consequences for my past. I know that. But what Beatrice did wasn't a consequence. It was a weapon. Anytime I asked for basic respect, she pulled the same lever. "You cheated. You don't get to question me." And because I was drowning in guilt, it worked. I'd back down. I'd apologize for asking. I'd try to prove I wasn't that man anymore by swallowing discomfort until my stomach ached. I didn't see I was training her to treat me like a man with no rights to his own feelings. The first time she admitted it, my body went cold. It was a Tuesday. She came home late, wearing a smile that didn't belong to our house. I said, "B, talk to me. What's going on?" She kicked off her heels, looked me straight in the face, and said, "I'm doing what I want. I need to know I still have power." That word, power, hit me like a slap. Not love, not hurt, not confusion. Power. Like I was an object she could lift and drop to test her strength. I asked, "Are you cheating?" She shrugged and said, "Maybe." From there, it became performance. She'd hum while texting. She'd leave the room to take calls and come back with glossy lips like she'd been smiling too hard. One night she played music in the shower and sang like she was celebrating, while I sat on the edge of the bed feeling like a fool. When I confronted her, she didn't deny. She didn't cry. She didn't even get defensive. She just said, "You should know what it feels like." And I wanted to scream that I did know, every day since I hurt her. I wanted to say I'd been trying to fix it. But she wasn't trying to heal. She was trying to win. The abandonment came in layers. Beatrice started with holding the kids from me in small ways, telling them Daddy's busy when I was right there. She'd plan family outings and not tell me until they were walking out the door. She'd post pictures where I was cropped out like I didn't exist. And when I tried to talk to my in-laws in Savannah, her mama said, "Tom, you're lucky she didn't leave you the first time. Whatever she does now is between her and God." I said, "But we're married." She replied, "Not in the way you deserve." Then she hung up. I leaned on my friends. I tried to. One of my closest boys from Colombia, Dre, kept saying, "Man, just focus on you." But he never looked me in the eye. I noticed he'd stop texting when Beatrice was around. I noticed he'd accidentally know things I hadn't told anyone. When I finally asked him straight up if he'd been talking to my wife, he laughed like I was paranoid. "Bro, you trippin', dud." But his laugh was too quick, too oily. That's when I realized betrayal doesn't always come with a dramatic confession. Sometimes it's just the way people avoid your gaze. I got pushed out of my own home without anyone saying the words. Beatrice claimed she needed space and started locking the bedroom door. The couch became my bed. Then she complained the couch made the living room look sad, so she told me to sleep somewhere else until I got myself together. I wanted to argue. I wanted to remind her my name was on the lease. But I was tired of the fights that went nowhere. So I slept in my car behind a Waffle House off I-85, the neon sign buzzing like a mosquito. I'd wake up with my neck cramped and still go to work like I didn't feel homeless. Wake was the only place nobody asked me to perform emotions. I was in Greenville during the day, smiling at co-workers, pretending I wasn't dying quietly. But pity has a smell. One woman would say, "How's the wife?" in that tone people use when they already know the answer. I started taking my lunch in my car. Sometimes I'd sit there and watch families walk into restaurants, and it would hit me. My family was right there in my phone, but I couldn't reach them. Beatrice would ignore my calls, then text hours later, "Stop blowing up my phone. You're not my dad." Like I was harassing her for wanting my own children. Even with all that, there were moments I still remembered the old us. Like the night she came home tipsy and slipped on the entry rug. I rushed over and she laughed so hard she couldn't breathe. For a second, she looked like the woman from the yellow dress, the one who wiped my forehead with a napkin and called me hungry. I helped Hay up and she wrapped Hay arms around my neck like muscle memory. My heart jumped. I thought, maybe we can get back. Then she leaned into my ear and whispered, "Don't get excited. I just don't want to fall." Romance turned into cruelty so fast it made me dizzy. The breaking point wasn't a single act. It was a repetition. The way Beatrice enjoyed making me reach for her and miss. She'd say, "We can talk," then disappear. She'd promise, "I'm coming home early," then roll in after midnight. And if I got angry, she'd smile and say, "There's the real Tom." Like she was waiting for me to snap so she could justify everything. I saw it clearly one night when she said, "I like watching you squirm. It reminds you you're not in control." That's when I realized I wasn't living with a partner. I was living with a judge. I did something I'd never done. I stopped trying to win her heart back. I started trying to save my life. Not in a dramatic way, in a practical way. I found a therapist again, this time for survival, not redemption. I wrote things down. Dates, times, what was said, what was withheld. Not to be petty, to protect myself from being gaslit into insanity. I opened a notebook and called it facts. Funny thing about facts, they don't argue with you. They don't shift when someone's mood shifts. They just sit there, steady, like a handrail. I also learned to laugh again, quietly, like a man hiding a flame in his jacket. One day at work, my coworker asked why I looked so tired. I said, "I'm training for the Olympics." He said, "What sport?" I said, "Sleeping in uncomfortable places." He laughed so hard he snorted. For the first time in months, I laughed too. It wasn't joy, exactly. It was release. I realized humor wasn't me pretending nothing hurt. It was me refusing to let pain be my only language. That little laugh reminded me I was still in there. Tom was still alive. I called a lawyer in Mecklenburg County and told the truth immediately. My past cheating, everything. I didn't want secrets. I didn't want surprises. The lawyer listened and said, "You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be prepared." That sentence stuck to my ribs. Prepared. Not vengeful. Not dramatic. Prepared. I opened a separate bank account in Raleigh. Changed my direct deposit. Started paying my share of bills through methods that created paper trails. I took a parenting class without telling anyone. Not because I needed to prove I loved my kids. I did. Because I needed documentation that I was stable. Beatrice sensed my quiet. People like her can feel when the rope is slipping. She started baiting me harder, picking fights, accusing me of cheating again, calling me fake changed. She'd send me pictures of a man's shoes by a hotel bed, like she was proud. I didn't react. I just saved them. She escalated. "You don't care now?" she asked one night, eyes bright, almost excited. I said calmly, "I care. I'm just not begging." She looked offended, like I'd broken a rule. "You think you're smart," she snapped. I thought, no, I think I'm done. Then came Miami. She texted me the address like a punchline. Lowe's, South Beach. Don't ruin my vibe. Watch the kids. My hands shook, but my mind stayed clear. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I replied, "Okay." That "okay" was the funniest thing I'd ever texted in my life, because it wasn't agreement. It was closure in disguise. The romantic part of me, the part that still remembered kitchen dancing, mourned in silence that night. But another part of me, the part that wanted to live, stood up straight. I cooked the kids dinner, helped with homework, and tucked them in like I wasn't about to change everything. While she was in Miami feeling powerful, I moved like a man who finally understood timing. I secured a small apartment in Durham. Nothing fancy, just clean and mine. I didn't take furniture that would start wars. I took essentials. I updated passwords. I gathered documents, birth certificates, school records, health insurance info. I filed what needed filing, quietly, through the proper channels. I didn't threaten. I didn't denounce. I just put my life in order. The moral math was simple. If someone is determined to hurt you, don't give them access to the parts of you they can reach. Lock the doors they keep breaking. Beatrice came back and expected the same old Tom, ragged, begging, scrambling. She walked in with that Miami glow and said, "So? You miss me?" I looked at her and felt something strange. Nothing. Not love. Not hate. Just distance. Like she was standing behind glass. I told her there were papers coming. Her face twisted. "You can't leave," she said. I said, "I'm not leaving loud. I'm leaving right." She laughed like it was cute. "You don't have a backbone." I didn't argue. I just kept packing my bag for work like a man preparing for a different life. Karma didn't strike like lightning. It came like rent due. Beatrice realized the joint account wasn't her toy anymore. The automatic deposits stopped landing where she could grab them. The bill she used to ignore started bouncing back to her name. Her boyfriend, because yes, there was one, wasn't in love with her. He was in love with the thrill of taking. When the stability dried up, he got scarce. He didn't fight for her. He didn't rescue her. He just stopped answering. Beatrice tried to rage at me about it, like I owed her a replacement audience. I didn't. She wanted power. She met reality. Court wasn't dramatic. That's what makes it satisfying. No shouting, no viral moments, no speeches. Just paperwork and a judge who cared about facts more than feelings. I had my notebook. I had screenshots. I had proof of consistent parenting. Beatrice walked in expecting charm to carry her. She tried to paint me as the villain who couldn't get over the past. But the timeline didn't lie. The financial records didn't lie. Her own text didn't lie. She never apologized, not even when the judge corrected her. She just kept smoking like smoking could pay legal fees. When the temporary orders came through, her face fell, not in remorse, but in shock. Control slipping looks like confusion on someone who thought they were untouchable. The private success came after, in the quiet. I didn't throw a party. I didn't post a status. I just built a steady life. I decorated my little Durham place with thrift store patience. I learned to cook meals that didn't taste like sadness. The kids got their own corner with blankets and books. We made Friday night pancakes and laughed when the first one always came out looking like a deformed blob. I started running again, not to look impressive, but because the rhythm helped my thoughts stop tripping over themselves. And slowly, romantically in a new way, I fell back in love with the idea of peace. Beatrice never showed remorse. Not once. Even after everything, she'd send messages trying to pull strings, to provoke a reaction. But I stopped feeding that machine. The moral lesson is simple and hard. You can't heal in the same place someone enjoys hurting you. I wasn't perfect. I was a man who broke trust once and spent years trying to earn it back. But repentance doesn't mean accepting abuse forever. At some point, growth looks like leaving. Not loudly, not for applause, just with truth, timing, and one decision that finally says, "My life belongs to me." If you love stories that make you gasp, laugh, and whisper, "No way," in the same minute, hit subscribe, because the next one is even worse.